All right, welcome in K-State Online. Mason Voth, Drew Galloway here with you. Typically we only go live after games, although we were
Anything exciting
scheduled to
happen?
go live later today. 2:00 is when we were going to do it. Who knows when that happens now? I wasted probably my entire life yesterday putting together graphics for signing day that who knows when we discuss it, because much bigger fish to fry in the Kansas State circles right now, because something that if you were on the KSO message boards, a very astute poster that's, KSO is great at reading body language and reading lips. And so there was some stuff there, people asking, well, could this be happening? Then some rumblings started to come out early in the week. Look, we heard those rumblings too, but nothing was able to kind of get put into a clearer focus until think late yesterday is when it started to become like, oh, I think we know what this might be. And the Manhattan Mercury, the first one to go public with it today, and that is that Chris Klieman is expected to retire as the head coach at K-State. The second winningest coach in K-State football history is expected to hang it up. Spent 7 seasons at K-State, won the Big 12 in 2022. His 54 wins are 21 more than Vince Gibson, who's in third place. Came up just shy of matching Bill Snyder's win total, but that's understandable. And look, there are a lot of different angles and elements to this because, look, not only is it you losing a head coach if you're K-State, not only is there a really good chance that you have the head coach lined up to follow, and it's one of your own that people would say is going to be like, it's also signing day on top of this. So there are a lot of different things to unpack here. We're going to get into all of those throughout the day. But the purpose of this one right here, and we'll talk a little bit about the rumored Collin Klein stuff. But the first show that you get today, there's probably going to be 2 or 3 of them, is going to be solely about the Chris Klieman stuff and really more of a like discussing it and everything there, because it deserves its own thing. And this is the piece of the news right now that obviously seems like a certainty. You say, why is that? Well, not only is it that it is our expectation at KSO that this is going to happen, but K-State was supposed to have their signing day press conference in less than 50 minutes. So it was supposed to happen at 11 a.m. this morning, but just around 9:30, K-State sent out an update and said that they are now moving the press conference that was supposed to be at 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. The first part of the press conference, instead of it being Chris Klieman like normal, will now be Director of Recruiting Taylor Bratt, and he will speak only on those that sign with K-State on Wednesday, is what it is. And then after Taylor Bratt is done, Chris Klieman and Gene Taylor will address the media. That would seemingly mean only one thing, because if this was them addressing the media to dispel the rumors and say false, Chris Klieman would still be doing the signing day press conference and talking about the 20-some new players that are being brought into the program. So with all that said, Drew, what's the first reaction and take to the news that's dropped today?
This is the first time I've really thought about it, and it is very, very bittersweet. Chris Klieman was rock solid as a head coach and probably did as good, if not better, as most folks anticipated. I remember the day that Chris Klieman was hired. I was not very high on the news, to say the least. And I made that very public to a lot of people, and got bought in when they did the social media rollout. And from there on, it felt like he was going to be the guy, and he was. I mean, it's funny looking back, but like 6-6 is going to be his worst non-COVID year. Like, he was really, really good for K-State, and to kind of have it all leak out at this time, especially, is kind of what makes it bittersweet, because I think that there was probably going to be a more designated rollout of how this was all going to play out instead of just like all doing it today. Because, not sure if you know this, but National Signing Day is probably the worst day to have something leak like this. And especially like while everybody's signing and everything. So because of that, it is just very crazy about how it all went about. But it is massive news that kind of shook everybody yesterday when we were talking about it, about like, is this really happening? Could it happen? But yeah, shout out to the people that saw the handshake between Deion Sanders and Chris Klieman and kind of made a little bit of a notion to where it looked like he might have said that he coached his last game. But yeah, it's insane how it all has played out. And I've been up for a lot of hours doing a lot of National Signing Day stuff in a lead up to it. And then today, and then have this all happen today. My brain has been like so scattered throughout what's going to happen, but it is absolutely wild. And everybody should give Chris Klieman a lot of credit, not just for what he has done at K-State, but for leaving the way that he is. Because a lot of people would have wanted to run it back and stay, and he's doing what he thinks and what most think are best for the program by stepping away and potentially having Collin Klein come in and take a step forward. It is very reminiscent, although not quite the same because he was already on that staff, but it feels very Bob Stoops to Lincoln Riley-esque.
Yeah, this is a move that's happening at this time because you would imagine, and again, we speak in not anything definitive because stuff can always happen. It's not finalized yet, but this isn't a move that happens on Wednesday, December 3rd. If you're not getting somebody that you already have lined up and is going to come in, because if this was K-State just wanting to get into the coaching cycle now, well, we know it's a bad time. Things have already gone to crap with a lot of other searches that teams have done. You would do this to have somebody lined up. You would have done this earlier if you were just, hey, Kleiman's done. We're doing this on a whim. And I think this, I think most people have taken the right approach to this. Like Chris Klieman doing this, I think he could have given it another year or two or tried, and I think probably really wanted to. But at the end of the day, probably just realized that like maybe it's going to be tougher for me to keep up here. And you know what? Like he's doing the right thing by realizing now is the time, because we've talked about this. And this is why K-State fans were so skittish about what might take place, is that you got lucky that Collin Klein didn't get one of the jobs in this cycle. Now, I think this has been in the works for a little bit longer. So, maybe it makes sense why he didn't end up at Oklahoma State. Maybe it makes sense why he didn't end up at some of these other places. But, you probably get a little worried if you're K-State and more SEC jobs open than what you anticipate. Obviously, he's a hot young name. Like there's a world in which this wouldn't have worked out and he would have still been here. So you probably realize, man, he didn't get a job this cycle, but he's going to be scooped up next time. And we know that so much of this is K-State fans for sure don't want to relive the Brad Underwood situation where you think you need a new basketball coach, and you then look around and go, oh my gosh, he took the Oklahoma State job. You could have gotten him from Oklahoma State, probably. You didn't need to at that point. Bruce had just taken a team to the NCAA tournament, and then you missed your chance because he ended up at Illinois after a year, and he's never leaving Illinois. He's like their basketball king right now. He's got it rolling there. It's going well. So you missed out on that, and that stings for K-State fans. And so then you get here in this situation, and like people are going to point out, because everybody loves to rain on a parade. Big parade hater. I do like raining on them. That's kind of my thing. But in this situation, I can see the forest through the trees. But people are going to be like, well, there's no guarantee that it works if it is Collin Klein. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. But you can't afford, if you're K-State, to miss out on the chance to get him, because I think there's a better chance than not that Collin Klein will be a great head coach. A guy his age, as quick as he's ascended into the coaching ranks. He shows up at Texas A&M. Certainly Mike Elko is a fantastic head coach. He proved that at Duke. He's proven that at Texas A&M. But like we know, and it's evidenced by how Chris Klieman has done things, you need good coordinators too to be a good head coach. And Chris Klieman did great things at K-State when Collin Klein was his offensive coordinator. And Mike Elko is doing great things at Texas A&M, things that A&M hadn't really ever accomplished with Collin Klein as his offensive coordinator. So you don't want to miss that chance. And so it is very, very admirable what Chris Klieman is doing here, because as much as people would have made that decision for him and said, no, he needs to be done, all this other stuff, he could have gone another year or two. And I think deep down, he would really like to. But, it shows, I think, the respect that he has for K-State and what he did at K-State, and realizes like this is the right time for them, and he's not being selfish about it. And that deserves a ton of praise for how this is being handled, because there are people and many coaches that are very selfish about it. And we had concerns that Gene Taylor wouldn't be able to step in this situation and prevent Klieman from being selfish if he wanted to. So this is huge for K-State. And like Klieman retiring when he did, yeah, he kind of goes out the hero, but he's elevated even more by the fact and the reason of why and when he's doing it.
Yeah, he deserves so much respect for it. And then Gene Taylor helping this happen too. He was part of the reason that Bill Snyder retired the second time and then brought Chris Klieman in. And if you really look at the Power 4 jobs that were open, Chris Klieman was probably the best hire of that entire cycle. Like, he certainly had the most stable program that has kind of happened since he took over. So he deserves a lot of credit. It's a perfect handoff between the two, and kind of ushering in the new era. It's going to be fascinating how fast this all plays out, how a new staff is all put together. All of that's going to be crazy, and I'm really excited about that. But yeah, the Klieman era, you can look back, and this season was disappointing. 2024 was disappointing. But if you knew going in that Chris Klieman was going to finish his career at K-State 54-34 and win a Big 12 title when he took over, every single person would have taken that.
And the only losing season he ends up having is in the COVID year. You don't play a full 12 games, like all this stuff. You absolutely take it. And people are saying it in the chat. We said it at early on into Klieman's time, once he actually got to K-State, he was the perfect guy to take over after Bill Snyder, because there were enough similarities, but Klieman had enough of what you needed to advance. And you're kind of in a similar spot now where I think and this happens to everybody. Like, I'm 27 years old, and growing up, I used to go, Mom, Dad, how do you not know how to use this on your iPhone? How do you not know how to do this on the computer? But then I sit here and I'm 27. My youngest brother is 21, and he'll do and say things that I could probably figure it out, but I had no idea that this, you could do that, or how this works, or what's going on here. And so I think you get to that point with Chris Klieman where the state of college football has changed so rapidly over the last few years. You have to have the energy to be in it, to keep up with it. And you have to be able to be really forward thinking. And we know that so much of this Chris Klieman hasn't liked. So with the way that things have changed, and he hasn't been necessarily resistant to the change. I think he understands, hey, we have to progress, but it sucks. And you need somebody that the attitude is, my wife is definitely not watching or listening to this, so I hope nobody rats me out to her. My wife and I have very different personalities when we get bad news. When I get bad news, unless it's catastrophic and it's worthy of whatever, then okay. But if it's best example, we got a piece of mail a month ago that told us the rate on our water bill was changing next year. And I got it. I looked at it and said, oh, all right, okay, we'll move on. We'll adjust. My wife was freaking out about it. And I'm like, there's nothing we can do about it. It was changing regardless. Like, there's no reason to freak out about this and make a big deal about it. And I think that's where in college football coaching right now, you have to be able, and Chris Klieman is very much in some of the changes, he's kind of freaked out about it. So you need somebody to come in that's ready to just take the punches, roll, and say, all right, what's next? How do we fix this thing? So that's where, like, you're making another great transition. If it ends up being Collin Klein, and again, all signs would point that it is going to be, you are once again getting, obviously, Collin Klein is a K-Stater, so you don't have to worry about the fit there. But also just in terms of, like, so much of what made Chris Klieman right after Bill Snyder was that there wasn't a ton of differences to the personality. Like, there are enough adjustments, but it wasn't anything like outlandish or overboard or a hard shift like you get in some places. So it just made sense. K-State retained a lot of the same identity that you wanted and needed, but also got enough of the new stuff kind of flexed into it. And now I think you're going to get that same type of deal if Collin Klein is the next guy. And we'll talk more about the Collin Klein stuff at the end of this show. We'll have, once the new head coach news becomes official or very close to it, we'll have a show solely dedicated to that and the outlook moving forward. But for the rest of the 15, 20 minutes that we're with you on this end, we're going to make it about Chris Klieman and his time at K-State because he deserves it. I will say this, Ron, take a hike. We're not talking basketball today, tomorrow, or ever again. No, we're dropping it. We're not worrying about basketball for a long time until Saturday when they lose to Seton Hall probably and we melt down all over again. But we're not talking about it right now. We're talking about Chris Klieman.
An underrated thing that Chris Klieman did that nobody has really brought up or talked about, and I mean, some of that is just on me for just kind of collecting my thoughts here a little bit, but it was thought for a really long time that nobody at K-State could win if their name wasn't Bill Snyder. So to show what he did and to win the way that he did and to just show again that you can win and not be Bill Snyder at K-State is a huge deal. And is why that, like, I had even thought that even if Collin Klein wasn't going to be the next head coach and it didn't work out in that sense, that the job would be really attractive still. Because there was a long stigma, and especially, when the only other coach of our lifetime was Ron Prince, and that was a disaster. So with all of that, like, it's just a whole crazy experience of this has happened, and the streak stayed alive the entire Chris Klieman era. Now, Chris Klieman gets to say, "Good luck, Colin." You get to be the one if KU were to pull off a win at some point against K-State. And then I think the final real thought that I have about what Chris Klieman has done that has been really, really good, the development into the NFL has been incredible. Like, he has taken K-State to new heights in the NFL draft. This will probably be the first year in, I think, 4 NFL drafts that there won't be a day 2 NFL draft pick. Like, that is legitimately crazy. And the 2022 or the 23 and 24 draft had the 2 most NFL draft picks in it from K-State since the early 2000s. Like, it was a really good run of NFL players and just putting them out. And Jacob Parrish is a legitimate candidate for NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year this year.
Yeah.
So everything that he did, that is one thing that I think was extremely impressive. And he was such an early adapter to bringing in transfers. Like, James Gilbert and Jordan Brown are huge additions that never really get talked about because they were just solid. And the 2019 team was fine. But having those 2 guys and kind of showing early on that, hey, we're going to use transfers before it really became popular, was a big deal. And James Gilbert was really, really good.
Well, Julius Brents was really a transfer before the transfer thing really kicked off, and that obviously worked out well. Yeah. I mean, well, all those. I mean, they killed it in the secondary with transfers. Julius Brents, Josh Hayes, Drake Cheatham. Like, just it was relentless with the guys they would add. You know, Timmy Horn got a cup of coffee in the NFL. They got him to transfer in on the defensive line. Like, they were really good early on there, and that's where when I talk about like he was ready to adapt and change and bring in kind of this new era to K-State. It just then things changed so rapidly on them and tossed this whole thing into a tumble and a tailspin that, you know, it got to this point. But like, he deserves nothing but praise because that team he took over after the 2018 season was really depleted. Like
they had literally 0 scholarship running backs. The only running back that they had on the entire roster, period, was Harry Trotter.
So yeah, well, no, they had to bring Harry Trotter in as a running back. He was a transfer with that staff.
And then Tyler Burns had to be convinced to come back to play football.
Yeah, and so you get all those changes and everything that comes on. So running back was a big deal. It was a massive hole. You also like the reconstruction of Skylar Thompson that had to happen under Chris Klieman and his staff. And look, we saw obviously him coming from North Dakota State. He was the quarterback whisperer, where it was Carson Wentz, it was Easton Stick. They had brought in Trey Lance. Trey Lance committed to Chris Klieman when he committed to North Dakota State. So he had those 3 guys in his back pocket. He comes to K-State. The Thompson Delton stuff had been a mess. Skylar had been kind of beaten down and all of that. And then here he is. Skylar plays his best football in 2019. 2020 gets knocked out, comes back 2021. Like, and Skylar ended up having a really solid career at K-State. And then obviously, like, you know, Will Howard takes over, and nobody thought that thing was going to work out in 2022 when he had to come in for an injured Adrian Martinez. It worked, and now Adrian Martinez and Will Howard have both made it to the NFL. So, like, it just kind of keeps rolling and everything that they did there. And, Skylar started an NFL playoff game.
So, like, all 3 quarterbacks that have made it on an NFL roster, and 2 have played – well, Adrian took a knee. I was going to say legitimate snaps, but he just took a knee at the end of a 49ers game.
Yeah. So, like, I think you look at that, and obviously – this staff developed like crazy. The running backs, they also had the pulse on that with Deuce Vaughn obviously helped things out. DJ Giddens then goes from unheralded out of Junction City to NFL draft pick and everything else. And really the other thing that plays into this is obviously Bill Snyder, he was here forever, had a lot of great teams. So he accumulated a lot of the iconic players, but in a 7-season stretch, Chris Klieman was able to bring in guys to the program that are going to go down as some of the best and surefire Ring of Honor guys at K-State. Deuce Vaughn will be up there. Cooper Beebe will be up there. Felix Anyadike-Uzama will be up there. That's the other thing.
DJ Giddens should.
K-State, they've had 3 Big 12 defensive linemen of the year under Chris Klieman as well. So you have all that to go with it. And DJ Giddens should be up there. There's, Avery Johnson obviously is going to have the numbers that would warrant getting him up there. A lot of it's probably going to depend on if he sticks around and how successful things go next year. But like, that was big too, because recruiting went to a level that you had never seen when Chris Klieman came to K-State. They had a top 40 class last season, anchored by the highest rated recruit in K-State history in Lincoln Cure. Obviously, the class of 23, getting Avery Johnson was, I would say, bigger than landing Lincoln Cure because it's a quarterback, because it was the in-state guy that had the big national recruitment. It brought a ton of momentum. And that class, not only was it Avery Johnson, but you also had Jace Brown in it. Joe Jackson was in that one. And just a number of guys that are playing football for K-State right now came out of that 23 class. And then, last year, Lincoln Cure and the best team ranking that K-State's had in some time. So it just every area of K-State football was elevated by Chris Klieman and his staff when they got here. They were able to get their Big 12 title. And yes, last year, things went downhill quickly, and it was not how people wanted it to end. This year was inexcusable the way that it went. But I think people will be more willing to acknowledge some of the things that they had go against them. Some of it self-inflicted, but a lot of it not, that led to maybe some of this stuff. And they ended on a high note. And obviously, you like the situation now that they were able to get that 6th win, and Chris Klieman is going to get kind of that send-off game in the bowl game, because that makes it not just a meaningless game now at this point.
If you were thinking about going to the bowl game or not, I think that you probably should.
Yeah, the only thing that, like, you can't do it because nobody had the knowledge, and so it makes sense. But like, I think it's unfortunate that Klieman did the last game in Manhattan and nobody knew it. So, but like, he was the right guy. He stepped up, and what he's doing now cements, like, the legacy was already good, but we know that there are coaches at K-State that what they did on the field or on the court is really good and should be respected and celebrated. But because of how they handled other things, the legacy doesn't actually hold up like it should. And Bruce Weber would be the best example of that. The guy won 2 Big 12 titles, took K-State to an Elite Eight, made the NCAA tournament 5 times, did miss it 5 times. But everybody had these conflicted feelings about Bruce, and then had started to get to, you know what, hey, it's going to end. We appreciate what he did. It was a fine job. Then he goes scorched earth and he says everybody sucks, and that, Gene sucked, and that the fans were the worst that he had experienced about all this. And it's certain some people have probably forgiven him. Do I need to do a better job of forgiving him? Probably. But it didn't really sit well with me that on the way out, he decided that he just needed to trash everybody and go after a university that means so much to me and so many others out there. And it was a lack of respect that he had for Kansas State when he was done and on the way out. And hopefully he regrets how he handled it now. But Chris Klieman going out and making a very selfless decision should really be celebrated by K-State fans. And it's just, another feather in the cap for all the good that he's done in his 7 years as the head coach at K-State.
Yeah, it is something that really needs to be celebrated, because even the end of Bill Snyder wasn't all roses and sunshine. And then there was talk about, like, people legitimately being scared if K-State beat Iowa State in 2018 and went to a bowl game, that Bill probably wouldn't have wanted to retire or get fired. So, like, the way that he has handled it has been with a lot of class, and just shows what we already knew about Chris Klieman. One of my favorite Chris Klieman moments was us interviewing him in Vegas last year, because we really got to see a different side of Chris Klieman last year in Las Vegas. You straight up asked him if he liked Las Vegas. He said that he's a huge Vegas guy and loves to go golfing there. So, like,
and hates the McRib.
Yeah, and hates the McRib. Like, we got to see so much of Chris Klieman at Big 12 Media Days the last few years that, like, it makes it easy to see, like, why players will go to bat for him so much and why they love him so much, because he genuinely is one of the good ones. I have a funny Chris Klieman story that I've never told anybody, so we're all about to hear it together.
Oh, heck yeah.
Last year when I lived in Manhattan, it was probably like 9:30 p.m. And you know what I do at 9:30 p.m. It's like we need to go get, like, ice cream.
Or you just go to movies. Yeah, I know. Drew and his wife, no kids, just do whatever they want. They get to have fun 24/7. Yeah, he's rubbed it in a time or two with me.
So we went to Hy-Vee, and
you got to be a Dillon's guy. Come on.
No, Hy-Vee was so much closer to where we lived. It was like 2 minutes away.
There's a Dillon's pretty close to there. All right, the point of the story. Not the point of the story. No grocery wars.
We went to a Hy-Vee at like 9:30. They were about to close. Just went to get, like, a snack because we were about to watch a movie. And I heard a familiar voice behind me say my name, and turned around, and it was Coach Klieman. And we talked for like 10 minutes in the middle of Hy-Vee, with both of our wives just kind of looking at each other and looking at us of like, oh, what's going on? So he was always really fun when you get to see him out. But yeah, it's it's a bittersweet day, but it's awesome because like I'm just like thinking about the future. The future is so exciting, and it probably helps with how bleak everything else has been this year. That like you have this glimmer of hope, and we're like, holy crap! Like this could be something and be huge.
Yeah, this certainly this would have been big news if K-State basketball hadn't been crap in the bed and that football was, 10-2 or something. But it certainly adds an extra element when there hasn't been a lot of good for K-State right now, and the future that didn't look like there was going to be a lot of good coming either. And now here we sit, and this is massive news because it's not just that Chris Klieman is expected to retire, and we assume that news will be delivered by him and Gene Taylor today at 4:00 at the K-State football facility in a press conference that we will have for you on KSO. And you'll be able to watch it live if you want to on ESPN Plus and Facebook and all the K-State channels. But there's also the element where the expectation is that Collin Klein is going to return to K-State and become the head coach. More validity added to this, so it's not just the Mercury, the first one to break it, go public with them. When this all comes together officially, absolutely, everybody should give the credit and praise to the Mercury for delivering and giving it to you first. But this tracks with what we had heard. Really starting to come around yesterday is when it started to really line up. There had been whispers of it that I had heard probably going back like a week or two. But like you just go, I don't know how, like, and then it started to pile up and more got onto it. I think this is something that has been done or at least planned on happening since around the Oklahoma State game in the middle of November. And then it obviously ramped up and was finalized because to add validity to all this is a lot to say this. Billy Lucci of TexAgs, the leader in covering Texas A&M for years.
I was going to say since literally we have been alive.
Yeah, they've been on top of it. He has confirmed the report. So if it's not just that it's coming from the K-State side, this is something you always have to remember in coaching searches. If you're not getting the information from both sides, then you're a little on edge. But he is confirmed that Collin is going to take over for Chris Klieman, and that tracks with everything we've heard at KSO that obviously the Merc reported. And he added a little extra element to this, and this might be where I think K-State was probably getting some plans in place, but they weren't totally sure about how this was going to work out. Klein was going to be the pick to succeed Alex Golesh at USF before the Klieman retirement stuff really kicked into gear, is what he reported. So USF really wanted Collin, and that was something that DY had mentioned, I think last week or earlier this weekend, that like South Florida was really making that push. It looked likely, but obviously K-State, everybody involved probably didn't want to miss the opportunity. So the expectation is that Collin Klein is going to return and coach at K-State. That stuff is still being worked through and finalized. I don't know if we will get anything from Gene Taylor on that today. That will be interesting to see. But we'll keep an eye on it, and the talks are there. It's going to move towards the finish line. And now, if you're a K-State fan, because nothing good ever happens to you, you are probably worried, like, oh no, what's going to stop us? I don't anticipate anything stopping it, but certainly this would be huge for Collin Klein to come home, because this is what makes sense in this world where you had a lot of decent coaching candidates get scooped up this cycle, namely because of how many big jobs opened up out there. And now you were able to bring in a guy that was a logical fit, that even if he hadn't gone to K-State, Collin Klein would have probably been on the radar for K-State in a coaching search situation this year or moving forward. He obviously was for Oklahoma State. And so now you're going to be able to execute on this. And the other thing that I would point to and say is look around the Big 12 and who won the Big 12 last year? Arizona State. Kenny Dillingham went to Arizona State. Kalani Sitake at BYU. They've been the best, most consistent team over the last 2 years in the Big 12. He went to BYU and played there, and they just pulled off the coup to keep him from Penn State.
Shout out Crumble Cookies.
Yeah. Crumble stepped up there. Not a big Crumble guy.
I'm not either.
Yeah, a little overrated, I would say. Just something about the taste is off there. But anyways, it's significant what K-State's doing. We will have more on the Collin Klein aspect of this as more news becomes available as we get closer throughout the day. That will wrap up what we do here now, and we'll still have a signing day show for you at some point today. We'll get all that squared away. Things have obviously changed around, but we got a lot more coming your way.
You need a little bit more clarity about what the hell is actually happening in terms of the signees and how this all goes before we do a show on it. But we'll do a show.
Yeah, and Drew's working a crazy amount on that right now to figure out what this all means. I would guess that there was some inkling, and again, a lot of these guys, are you going to pass up the chance to play Big 12 football? And also, like, this is a really good plan in place. This is an easier sell for a guy like Taylor Bratt to keep these guys in the fold. But K-State, it puts them in a vulnerable position. You know what? You take the vulnerabilities if you're going to be able to get Collin Klein at the right time. So for Drew Galloway, I'm Mason Voth. Thanks for watching and listening to the KSO show today. We've got more coming your way today in the form of shows and podcasts and updates on the KSO YouTube. So stay locked in for that. Everything up to the minute, though, will take place over at On3. So head on over to KStateOnline.com. We'll keep you locked in there with Chris Klieman stuff, with Collin Klein stuff, and National Signing Day, and everything else you need to know about the crazy K-State football situation right now. But we're out of here, and we'll talk to you again later this afternoon.